On my first evening on this most recent trip to Milan, I had a very early dinner reservation. The only time available was at 7:15, I had been told by the website. I wasn't aware that anybody in Milan actually ate dinner that early. Normally, that's in the middle of aperitivo time. But I had been up since 4, so the unusually early time was fine by me for a first evening. In any case, I was duly in the Porta Venezia area, a neighborhood I don't know well even though it's full of restaurants, while it was still light, and, ahead of my reservation, ambled slowly down Via Nino Bixio. Across the street from this charming house with the palm trees was where I was going. Remulass, with its entrance just barely visible between the tall plants outside. Amazingly, I wasn't the first diner there. There was another party who had got there before me. I had time to take in the very attractive bar area, with its greenery hanging from a high orange horizontal planter box before I considered my orders. As it was my first night in Milan, I decided to start off with a glass of champagne. Enfant de la Montagne, a delicious Premier Cru from Bertrand de Lespierre, an artisanal grower champagne whose name was new to me. With it arrived an amuse-bouche, a sweet and sour beetroot puree with daikon. Remulass opened in December 2021, emphasizing more sustainable practices in restaurant cuisines. Chef Laura Santosuoso's menu has few but well-chosen entries and leans towards vegetables, although not exclusively. It also has what one might call a root vegetable bias. Remulass is Milanese dialect for ramolaccio, a word which encompasses various kinds of white radishes, mostly those with pointed shapes, like these on the wine booklet cover. My antipasto was a couscous of smoked cauliflower with dried tomatoes and basil pesto, just the kind of vegetable-forward antipasto I like. After hearing my ideas for the rest of the meal, my server recommended that I take a smaller-than-normal antipasto portion. Servers know the menu and the portion sizes, so I always follow their advice. From the primi choices, I had to go for what the menu described as risotto, remulass, barbabietola, e spinaci. I learned later that this was a nod to the text of a popular Milanese song from the early 20th century, La Bella Lava il Fosso, whose second line contains the words Remulass, barbabietul e spinaci, meaning ramolaccio, barbabietole e spinaci, or white radish, beet, and spinach. I hope the video conveys a sense of how delicious this risotto was. The green pureed squiggles are the spinach, in case you were looking for it. Original and utterly satisfying. This is what I am looking for in unusual risotti. My wine-drinking tempo wasn't quite matching the recommended pairing, but my server decided the next wine would also work well as an overlap with my secondo. Said wine being a Petit Arvin Lié from Maurice Creta in the Valle d'Aosta, Italy's northwesternmost region, whose wines I seldom encounter. Petit Arvin is the varietal, an ancient one indigenous to this mountainous area, cultivated on extremely steep slopes just outside Aosta. Octopus is something I love, but rarely eat at home in Vienna, so I'm delighted to order it when I'm in Italy. It is, however, very filling, and my choice of this for secondo is what led my server to recommend reducing the portion size of the antipasto. This octopus was grilled and rested on a bed of purple potato puree, surrounded by a lime and cilantro-flavored caramel, with the octopus cooked to tender perfection. There were 3 desserts on the menu, and after some consultation, I went for the only one which wasn't a sweet, namely a plate of salva cremasco cheese with a tropea onion marmalade. I hadn't ever come across salva cremasco before. It's a raw cheese made from cow's milk with a washed crust, produced in the central Lombard plain, especially around Crema, hence the name. This aging had a nice tang, along with an agreeably crumbly texture. And marmalades don't come any better than those made from tropea onions. I was also brought another tray of excellent bread to go with the cheese. Once again, the server's wine suggestion was very appropriate, a late harvest Tokai. By 9:15, the earliest I've ever been finished with dinner in Milan, at a time when far more often I've arrived for dinner, I was back outside on Via Bixio. But a very early dinner on one's first night, after a long day, with an early night to look forward to, isn't the worst way to go. And it was a great dinner to start my trip.